The Empire fully embraced the Walker, a vehicle type also used heavily by the Galactic Republic. But what of the AT-AT? Why were some seemingly better than others, and how powerful was the most powerful AT-AT? We'll discuss all that and more on today's video. Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. We've got a fun one today. Stick around to the end because I do want to give some channel updates, including some stuff that's kind of important. However, the question behind today's video comes from Matrix5466. Hi Matrix, subscribed for 4 years, who says, "It seems to me that the AT-ATs we see in Rogue One have much less firepower and have weaker armor than the ones we see at Hoth. Is this because the model of AT-AT they were using at Scarif was more of a transport type rather than a war vehicle, or they decided to upgrade the armor and firepower after the war officially broke out?" Well, I'd say at Scarif, the war kind of already had officially broke out. The history of the Yavin era AT-AT is a little different under Disney than it was in Star Wars Legends, and we see several early variants of the Walker, including in Star Wars Rebels, where we see what most have just dubbed the prototype AT-AT. We also see this in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order when Cal Kestis takes one over. And like many aspects of Star Wars Rebels, it seems to be quite similar to what the Empire used later on, although more heavily based on the original Ralph McQuarrie concept art. The prototype AT-AT was actually slightly larger than the full production model. However, it seems to be less massive overall, with the legs in particular just seeming less well armored. I actually really liked when Jedi Fallen Order decided to use this variant of the AT-AT for its mission. I thought it was a nice bit of visual consistency, but I assume there were many different variants in use during the Galactic Civil War, and we see another, as alluded to in the original question, during the Battle of Scarif. This is the AT-ACT, the all-terrain armored cargo transport, and as Matrix assumed in his original question, yes, the AT-ACT had a completely different purpose. Thankfully for you all, I own a copy of the Rogue One Ultimate Visual Guide, and it lays it all out. So, the AT-ACT is, and I quote, "a larger version of the standard all-terrain armored transport featuring a dedicated cargo bed for the transportation of heavy building materials or combat munitions. Although not built for combat, the AT-ACT can nonetheless pose a formidable obstacle to infantry, as is discovered by the commando forces of the Rogue One team." If you're wondering why would you use a Walker for that purpose, well, for one, the Empire is extremely extra, so why not throw something designed to be ultimately terrifying up as a tractor trailer essentially on your backwater planet? But really, there were two reasons. The AT-ACT was meant to protect against very vulnerable cargo, so it makes sense you'd use it on a planet like Scarif doing top secret research, and according to the Ultimate Visual Guide, and I quote, "it was meant for carrying cargo in situations where repulsor lifts are unreliable or not suitable due to material incompatibilities." I always like the Rogue Squadron method where you put your thing on a hover train, but an AT-ACT is a pretty cool option as well. I imagine the vehicle would have traded generator space for stabilizers and, of course, cargo space. Either way, pretty cool, and the extra tall Walker is certainly quite intimidating in Rogue One, but that's why you can see it taken down by the starfighters of the Rebel Alliance. Now, I think too many people have played the original Rogue Squadron video game, maybe Shadows of the Empire, or just watched Episode 5 at a very impressionable age, but there's nothing in that film which says starfighter weaponry wouldn't work against an AT-AT. It certainly would. Starfighter weaponry can break through capital ships. The Snowspeeder in particular was just an underpowered vehicle. It wasn't meant to be doing direct defense of Echo Base. Anyway, continuing in Star Wars canon, we then have the AT-AT, the main variant. How early it was introduced, kind of unclear to me. Same thing in Star Wars Legends, and there were certainly different variants, often invented for video games or to sell toys. I do, however, quite like the evolution of the AT-AT in Star Wars canon, moving beyond the Galactic Civil War. The First Order really has two Walker variants. First of all, and I know some people don't even notice this because it is kind of in the background, there's the First Order AT-AT, which is just a slightly larger, presumably more advanced version of the Walker used by the Empire. Then there's the gigantic AT-M6, which is a pretty radically different design. I gotta say, I'm a big fan of the AT-M6. Those massive knuckles that it uses to brace itself when firing its main cannon are cool. But the AT-M6 is just absolutely massive compared to a regular AT-AT. You can see that it dwarfs even the first order ones, which are larger than their Imperial counterparts. Part of the reason why I think some don't even recognize that there are regular AT-ATs at the Battle of Crate. In Star Wars Legends, the Empire continued to use the AT-AT. We hear about them all the way until Fate of the Jedi, and checking the Wikipedia article, they even appear in the Legacy comics. So quite a venerable vehicle design. But that's all we've got for today. I was thinking about doing just a dedicated New Year's Ask Me Anything. I don't think there's enough interest though, so if you do have questions that are less lore-based, feel free to let me know. Maybe I'll include some at the end of my next few videos, so you can get to know me a bit more if you choose to. Mara for editing, I don't know what you're gonna put for this. Anyway, today's question, however, comes from Monk of Bob, who says, Ek, if you'd share, did you leave legal practice because the channels were making more and it was an opportunity, or was it a way out? Thanks for the question. Obviously, I'm a YouTuber. I love to talk about myself, big ego, but for real, it was neither of those situations really. I did practice law for a very short time. I took a job after graduating law school. I moved to Toronto. I really loved the job, actually. If I were still a lawyer, it's probably the one job that I would really want. However, I missed home, and my wife, she was then my girlfriend, and I both knew that we wanted to come home. We knew we wanted to have kids. We knew we wanted to buy a house, and those things probably weren't in the cards living in Toronto. So I decided not to renew my contract, which was obviously a massively pivotal moment in my life. She decided to go back to home, basically to look for a house and to also start working. I had a few months where I was living alone, relatively broke, without too many friends, so I decided to start making YouTube videos. If you watch the first videos up until like July on my channel, I was working a full-time job while doing those and also recording them on my cell phone. Just horrendous editing, horrendous audio recording. But it was a very fun time as well. Eventually, I moved back home and I didn't get a clerkship that I really wanted, so I decided I would take 6 months and just really focus on YouTube just to see where I could get, and the channel blew up, everything went really well, and here we are today. My life definitely went in a very interesting direction. I think it would have been good either way, but this was such a unique opportunity, I'm really glad that I took the jump. Although, it's always interesting to explain to people why I'm not a lawyer, especially if they assume that I am. I actually ran into one of my old classmates and even one of my own professors at a wedding I went to the other day, and yeah, it was interesting to lay that all down. But thanks for the question. As for the small channel update, I'm dealing with some really serious copyright claims right now. I've been detailing them on Twitter. They actually seriously do threaten the health and even existence of the channel. So I'm going to try to continue to deal with them behind the scenes. They're completely fraudulent and illegal, but I may have to do another pretty big exposed video on a company just to force their hand because I'm losing a lot of money at a time when Star Wars YouTube is already struggling. So that's all I've got. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. May the Force be with you. I appreciate all of you. Have a good 2025.